Oh God.
Good evening, everyone. Come on into the room of the Friday night sip and chat. We are we got some people that's gonna be, arriving a little bit in the middle of our conversation. However, we're about to jump it off. And last week we talked about how do you empty your baggage before you move to the next relationship. And from that, we got a whole bunch of information. And we were like, okay, so where do we go next? Because so many things start popping up. And so tonight we're going to jump into the power and influence of unchecked baggage. So before we do that, we got to give our shouts out to who is present with us right now. Um, Miss Jen, how you doing this Friday night?
I'm good. I'm prepping. It's Friday, and I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. And we got Camp rocking it out with us, as always, from who knows where in the country, with her little wave. How you doing?
Yes, it's a good day.
What we sipping on, ladies? I got my pretty cup tonight.
Oh, a frosted wine glass.
Yes, yes.
I have my
Jeez, I didn't have a cup
usual,
right there today.
but I ain't fill it
Okay,
up
it's a
yet.
blue glass. Okay.
Yeah, it's my. I had the same one, but I ain't fill it up yet. I'm just waiting.
Okay. LaJoya, what you rocking with? You asked the kids to go grab it for you.
I don't necessarily have a glass right now, but I'm gonna produce one later.
I got you. So, ladies, I'm sure we'll be joined by some. Oh wait, here we go. By some more of our guests. Hey, April, how you doing?
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Clear.
Hey,
Yay, I'm in a different part of
hey,
the house.
April.
Hi.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm in a different part of the house. So we was just,
Goodness.
what you got in that bottle?
Oh, you saw that?
Yes.
I have some vegan wine today,
Okay,
Stella Rosa,
okay,
and it is a sparkling red, and it's really good.
Mm.
okay. Sparkling red.
Yeah.
So we were just
Are we
about to,
live?
we are.
Okay.
So all of your sparkling red vegan is live for whoever is listening or catching
Ooh,
us on the replay.
okay. Sorry.
That's okay. So, like I was saying, last week we covered how do you empty your baggage before you move on to the next relationship. And we kind of like peeled back some of those layers and found that it's some things that people just don't pay attention to or acknowledge. And so now we're talking about the power and influence of those unchecked baggage. So,
Mm.
whew, ladies, where do you want to start?
The power and influence. So basically, what happens after
Right.
some? What happens after someone basically? Oh, I guess someone's coming in now. What happens after they unpack all of this?
Right.
Now, I would say, well, I think last week we were basically talking about whether or not someone is willing to take the help or they're willing to listen to someone who is letting them know.
Hmm.
Are you guys on?
Yeah, they on. I just put you in front and center. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Love the hair, by the way.
Yes.
Thanks. Whether or not someone is willing to take heed and make the changes.
Hmm.
And if they are willing to make the changes and the changes are made, that can be like a beautiful relationship, like a wonderful relationship that turns into a marriage,
Right.
which most of them do. Or if it's not, basically, if someone lets you know all of this baggage that you have and you're not willing to check it, it can be the demise of plenty of different relationships like we spoke on before, or you
Mhm.
ruining someone else's, or you dropping that bag off on someone else. So um it's unfortunately it goes two major ways, but hopefully it's the one that gets you go and seek whatever help you need, and so that you
Right.
can have really successful relationships. We need more of those out here.
Right. It's like an accountability check, really.
Mm.
Which is the
Accountability.
major thing. Accountability. And a lot of people, unfortunately, I would say they don't know how to be accountable.
Right.
Because that's a major thing, especially it feels like it's more of a major thing if this is their first time having to be held accountable for their actions, their first time someone telling them what basically their love language is, or what they expect from them.
Right.
So yeah.
That's a lot. April. Like,
I was about to go off camera for a quick
is
second.
that right?
Let me come back to me, okay?
Okay. So can't we jump into you? What's your thoughts on the baggage? Are you there? Are you frozen?
She's there. I think the signal is just probably a
little delayed. Okay.
Yeah.
So Camp, I was asking for your input on the baggage. If you when you get that signal, you just let us know. So like Jen, what you were saying, like it's that accountability part. Like, are you willing to accept someone not correcting you necessarily, but pointing out to you the things that you may do or say or not do and not say,
Yep.
that maybe triggers for you, that it's like, okay, why are we always in an argument, or why are we always like debating about certain things, and it's always the same thing over and over again? And if it's repeated, then that's a pattern.
Yeah. Or if it's no arguing at all, if you have somebody, which a lot of people, which I didn't realize, a lot of people shut down. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people just won't even, but that is also an issue. Like you would rather just avoid all the issues and
Mm-hmm.
just shut down and lock it up. And you're keeping all these things internally, which no one knows what's going on in your head. No one knows how you're feeling. You're keeping all of this inside, and every time, every relationship, every time something is needs to be addressed, you don't address it. You'll just shut down.
Right.
That's not being held accountable either. You're just basically it's almost as if you're not giving that other person. It's almost sometimes when people shut down,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like, do you really care? Like, are you willing to work on whatever the issues are?
Right.
Or are you just basically like, well, whatever, I'll just let you talk, or just let you vent, or say whatever you say, and I'll just sit here and just listen. I'll just like I'm shutting down. So
Yeah, and it's like they're not even a participant if they constantly shutting down or just saying that they're gonna go along with whatever it is that you're saying. And in the fact of just shutting down and or just sitting there and listening, because they may not be shut down all the time,
yeah,
but if they're just sitting there listening, you have to know how your partner like processes, because they could be listening and don't want to interrupt you and don't want to say the wrong thing, because maybe that's one of their baggage hang up things.
yeah.
And so then therefore they're like, okay, well, can I listen? And then can I come back to the conversation? Now, Jen, I know you only give them 30 minutes, so I don't know.
And see, that's the thing. It's so many different types of baggage that I encounter. There's also one where someone just basically like they're a yes man. They don't want to. They'll tell you whatever you want to know, or not know, but they'll tell you whatever they think you want to hear, just because they want to people please, and it's not really something that they
Right.
possibly agree with or they want to go with. They
Right.
disagree with you, but they just like, well, whatever. I don't even want to use the term like a sucker, but basically just like a yes man or yes man.
Or I'm gonna just go along with
Yeah.
the flow.
And you created, and you have so much. Those are the people that's like, I guess years later they blow up on whoever gets all of that baggage that they've been holding in, because they've just been going along with everybody else's flow for
Right.
all of these years, and that's not necessarily what they want to do. But they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to say it. They don't know how to, I guess, be it.
Right.
So they're carrying all of this baggage of years of the woman or the man telling them how to do, how to be, who they are, and
When
then
to
they're bringing
show
it
up,
into
when to
this.
not
Yeah.
show up.
Then they're
Mm-hmm.
bringing it into the next relationship and blow up, like literally blow up.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll have a breakdown or just anything. Like that's bad too. Just
And it
because
seems
you don't argue, like that's an issue.
right. And it's, you know, and people look
You
at
should
arguments as
argue.
being bad. What'd you say, Kim?
You should argue.
Arguing is healthy.
It's
You get
healthy.
pent up. It is healthy. Because me and my husband, we didn't argue, but
Uh-huh.
then we didn't argue. But I felt tension, and I feel it in my bones. A problem.
Right.
You may not speak on it, but I feel it in my bones. So let's talk.
Right.
And if we gonna talk, I'm naturally loud. Well, I'm gonna go low and not be loud.
Right. And that's
But
being
at the same
responsible
time,
and acknowledging like what knowing
yeah.
your partner. Yeah.
Yep.
But you gonna hear me today. I might
Yep.
not say nothing, but I may cut my eyes like a.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by arguing? Because, or what does argument look like? Because to me, it sounds like arguing is aggressive, or
It
can
can
be
be.
aggressive.
It can be.
So do
When you
we,
start moving hands,
right. Well, that's what an
guys
argument.
moving hands
So
too.
hopefully, so the argument would be like the volcano, you know,
Right.
like you've allowed all of this stuff to kind of mount up. But you should have conversations that's like those tough conversations about uncomfortable situations, but without aggression.
Yeah.
You know, or I mean, but and if you get so caught up in your emotions, because melanated folks, that's what we do. We get caught up in our emotions. Yeah, we start, like you said, throwing the hands and rolling
Right.
the
It's
neck.
the ego.
It's the ego. Like, I have to be right. You have to be able to say, okay, maybe I'm not clearly communicating what my needs are, or maybe tell me what it is that you understood so that I can make sure that we're on the same page.
Yep.
And that's difficult for some people,
Right.
you know, to be able to take that fallback, because, you know, can't, like you just said, I'm gonna give them the hands and the neck and give them the side eye, and
Well,
you never know what that side eye, huh?
Sometimes guys be like, "See, you never listen to me. Why can't I listen to you? I'm grown. Let's talk about this."
So that's a cue word for you. You never listen to me. Like, that automatically shuts you down. So I know somebody.
It just means if you telling me that you feel some type of way when I don't. So let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
With that little grin.
I know, like
that grin is gonna make me feel like you really don't want to hear what I gotta say.
No, you can say it. And I'm just saying my faces that I have when we have these arguments, I'd be like, really?
like
And then I have this one. Instead of doing this, I have this.
he like this sarcasm
Because when you
in it all.
Right, it's sarcasm. It like could really like stop the whole process.
Which sounds like
it presents you being defensive.
Exactly, April.
Yeah,
like
it presents you being defensive.
Right.
So instead of getting defensive, I just be like, let me think about this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
And the defensiveness is a bad. Like, that's a bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Because
a bad.
you
If you always on the defense.
Yeah. It is.
They laughing at your faces in the comments.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
Oh, the comment I got the other night. Oh, you hard-headed just like your son.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I am. Okay.
Okay.
If I'm hard-headed like my son, I can just be quiet. It don't say nothing.
Right. He don't fall too far from the tree. What's up, Daryl?
Hello there. How are you doing?
Right, but the baggage
Good.
is, hey Daryl, but the baggage is what you don't see is the stuff that you see in your child. Part of it comes from you.
Right.
So you trying to project that onto me. That ain't me. That's you see yourself in your son that you don't like. So you say, I'm hard-headed. You talking to the wrong person. On that situation. I am hard-headed, but not that situation. That's what I'm saying.
Yep. That's another form of baggage when like people try to shut someone down. Like
right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like also like somebody put in the comments, you could check somebody with that side eye and they can feel check, and then they can respond from the fact that did they just really check me? Like they didn't even hear my full story and they already like making their judgments and assumptions around what is actually happening or what their experience is. And if you have judgment, you're not really listening.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, I can have an opinion, but
you make a face. That's judgment. I just think you're trying to understand. You may not. I may not understand. Really.
But this one was funny.
But just because you have multiple degrees, just because you have multiple degrees, I mean you understand everything. There's something new to learn every day.
Right, but even take the degrees out of it. We're human people.
Mm-hmm.
Fallacies.
We human people.
Right.
And we have things that have been poured into us from our childhood, our life experiences, and all of that stuff that have shaped us to either prepare or not deal with this conversation in and of itself because of how we have learned to deal with conflict or differences or just owning of ourselves as an individual.
I don't think
Daryl
I've
giving
ever
us
met
the side
anyone.
eye. I'm like, oh, what's that mean?
He did give a side eye.
I don't think I've met anyone who doesn't have baggage though. Like some form of
absolutely.
Like is that even possible? Like, is it possible? Like, have anybody met anyone who doesn't have baggage?
I mean, we all have experiences. So in every experience, we take something away from it. But if you have one foot in the last relationship and one foot in the current relationship, then you are having some levels of toxic energy because you haven't really resolved whatever it is that you had going on in that old relationship. And now you comparing me to the past partner where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, they might just still be in love with the old partner, even though they need to be with you.
And got dumped.
They just in love with the old partner. They can't escape it. That's hard.
Which unveils another baggage.
That's hard to shake off. It's like this, like a dog. They keep coming back. you know you don't need that dog, but you just want to scratch the itch. You just gotta have that dog.
Right, but you gotta have balance and respect in that.
You
Daryl,
do.
Did you say something? No, you sure? You're not jumping in the rope just yet?
I gotta get. I'm trying to feel the rope out before I get it. I'm here. I'm here right now. I'm here.
But sometimes that dog just keep coming back. That toxicity just keep coming, and you gotta really be grounded to be like done with it.
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It can be hard, but it's only hard if that's your mindset. If your mindset is that it's difficult and it's not possible, then you walk into the situation not from a resolution space of mutual love and respect. You walk into it like, I got my ground, they got their ground. What we gonna do? Like my baggage is my baggage. You gotta accept me as I am. What if they say that? Accept me as I am. And you like,
which a lot of people say that.
But that's like if I accept you as you are, you're real dusty. That means you need to clean up some stuff and be by yourself for a little bit.
Right? April is like back flags. It's definitely red flags. Definitely red flags. So it's like even with the red flags, like, do we even have a conversation of what those red flags are? Like, you know, when you do X, Y, and Z, those are red flags for me. So can we figure out another way to deal with that and the person not become reactive or defensive, which creates, you know, they're revealing their baggage to you in all of these conversations and all of these behavioral responses.
Mm-hmm. Today we must discuss it.
You said, what was the question? Is there a way to?
Is there a way
to do what?
I don't even remember. Oh man. April, like, is there a way to kind of like measure it out or figure out like what's going on?
I thought you asked, do we talk about it?
Okay, then there we go. I'm sorry. I got caught up.
That's okay. I may have misread it, but that might have been my forethinking. But yes, I think we need to sit down and talk about it. At this age, at my stage, I'm just like, no, before we even go further, let's address it. Whereas if I was in my 20s or 30s, I would have been like, okay, well, I'll let that slide, see how far it goes.
Right. I think I remembered. I was saying, when we see the red flags, how do we come to the table and actually talk about it? Like, and then not be a reactive or a defensive type situation.
Right.
I feel like the majority of the time it's always going to be, a reactive, but I think it depends on the severity of also like what the baggage is. Like if it's just like whether it's insecurities or something like that, where you could kind of address softly. I guess you could not tiptoe around it, but you can address that softly. That has to be talked about. But if it's like some major like baggage where you have like a control, like someone is controlling and they're just like, they just have a whole lot going on, we need to like that immediately. Like, we gotta handle that. And I'm gonna obviously have to let you know, because no one else lets you know. I'm gonna have to let you know, and we gotta nip some stuff in the bud. Or like the exit door is right there.
But the exit door is not always available.
Why not?
Because then that means that you're just gonna carry that stuff to your next situation because it's still unresolved. It's an unchecked bag.
That's true. Oh,
if you're trying to exit,
and I guess that's like if they're on some, you're bringing this to them. They're the one with the baggage.
Right.
You want to sit down, have this conversation. They're defensive. They're really not wanting to hear it. What do? Are you going to sit there and just wait it out till whenever they're wanting to like basically take heed, and I guess you guys see counseling or whatever you need to do to get over it. But if they're letting you know basically that they're not willing to handle it, they're not willing to fix whatever the problem is, what are you going to do?
Well, most of the times people will just retreat and either pull back on intimacy, sexual intimacy. They will begin shopping. They'll begin staying at work later. They'll begin hanging out with their friends and not taking your time or anything into consideration. They'll do everything to avoid having that interaction with you because that makes them feel emotionally vulnerable and unsafe. And if I don't have to have the conversation that's going to make me unsafe, then what else can I do?
But I like when you say hold back, like intimacy, like for example, sexually, I just think that's baggage too.
It is
holding back that piece.
Because that's like supposed to happen on a regular. Like that's not supposed to be withheld.
Right, but I think that's supposed to happen regardless if you mad at each other or not. Because I feel like you have needs, the person has needs. You can always squash that out after you finish doing what you're doing. You can always continue to talk to your like kind of like how you call it, scaffolding, chunking it, pasting it. We can't paste that, but we can paste the conversation or whatever the issue is. But sometimes, like having sex or just being intimate in other ways, it helps you get through the tough moment. People still need connection and need to feel connected. So if you're not, that just puts another baggage on the table, basically, I think.
And the intimacy is not just sexual though. So intimacy can just be spending quality time or listening to your partner or, grabbing you guys haven't been on a date in a while. And you're like, you know what, this is holding me accountable for me to recognize that, I've been on my grind working on my business and I haven't paid that much attention to my partner or my children, whoever it is. And I need to check myself. But that depends on how committed they are in the relationship growing into something like more beneficial. And they may not even recognize that they have this baggage thing just kind of lingering in the middle of the living room floor because the barriers is focused on whatever they got that tunnel vision for. And yet we're reacting to it, but it's not clear. Like we got to put it into words as opposed to how we feel. All right, Daryl, it's only you and me and I on mute.
It's us. Me and you tonight.
Yeah.
I just think sometimes people be in relationships and there's a commitment issue, and that's baggage too. They just stay and nothing's happening. It's just very like a blanket. It's just like, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, but they're not really involved in the actual relationship.
Right.
It's like somebody asking you love them. How was it going? I don't know. Ask them. It's just
Right. Or
like
be
that's even
indecisive.
baggage.
Or throw the question right
Yeah.
back to the person without answering it, which is like deflective. So what is the power part of this though? Like, is this a power and control situation in the midst of not confronting the accountability of what makes you vulnerable or uncomfortable in relationships?
Right. I think, for example, sometimes like the person who's not putting their all in has the power because they know the other person, like for example, maybe a stay-at-home parent, or they just home period. And they're like, well, I pay the bills and they're not going nowhere. Sometimes they may take that for granted. They're like, oh, she'll still or he'll still be here. They still taking classes in school. They transitioning into the next career. They'll be here for a while. They start adding up the time. Like, how long do I have to be the way I am, to stay the way I am without putting in real work?
Right. A lot of people do that. And then when you bring it up as far as like people who come into counseling around that conversation, they're like, they don't even realize that that's a thing. Like that's a behavior or that's an avoidant tactic that they have grown to activate every single time that they get held accountable or called to the carpet for whatever reason. And they're like, okay, well, how did I get out of this the last time? But when the partner is like pushing the envelope, like, okay, yeah, you did get out of it this time because you did this behavior or you used this excuse or there was this reason, but no, this time we need to kind of stand in this together. And hopefully you can stand in it together in the absence of it becoming too uncomfortable. And if it becomes uncomfortable, how about this? Growth only happens when you're uncomfortable.
Amen. It does.
So you gotta trust that partner.
Huh? Sometimes you be in quicksand. Trusting somebody is so hard to do. You can be people be like, oh, we've been together for 20 years, but you ain't really done nothing. Y'all haven't grown. 20 years of dust on the wall. Where's it going? You married, but it's not a marriage. It's not nothing.
Did you say dust on the walls?
Yeah, it be compiling. It'd be like from the fans. You know how fans turn?
Yeah.
They collect the dust in the air and it thickens and you haven't cleaned it yet. You're afraid to clean it because you know there's nothing there.
Or when the children go away to college.
Yes, but if there is something there, guess what? That person can keep doing the behavior because they sent you flowers during your anniversary. Yeah. That's once a year. This shouldn't happen just because it's an anniversary. This should be happening, like, be working on it throughout the year.
Right.
So I'm just a Christmas present?
Oh. So, let's talk about the baggage of just giving gifts to keep you silent. Because people do give you gifts to keep you silent in regards to maintaining what it is that they have value in. So behavior or things that people do is either to get something or to gain something. So if they're or avoid something or to get something. So like if they're trying to avoid having that interaction that is going to make them feel uncomfortable and they have to change a certain thing about themselves, then it's like, okay, yeah, no, I need to avoid this at all costs. Like, let me go buy a gift that's going to shut her up or shut him up. Let me give a weekend getaway, like whatever it is that you have learned is going to change that narrative. You end up learning that and then you end up doing it over and over again until somebody says, we getting off this wheel.
And it's like, oh, let me go buy this ring and propose. Then I hold her for another 10 years.
The empty proposal.
What kind of baggage is that when you're holding or you're basically bribing someone?
You said what kind of what is that?
Baggage.
That's toxic baggage.
I mean, I know it's toxic, but is it, does it have a category?
Most of the times it probably will be somebody who has difficulty attaching in a relationship like that. We say commitment.
Okay.
in the world, but it would be like them having difficulty really attaching to whoever it is that they say that they're interested in. And so then they create this dance where they say, okay, well, let me just give them a little bit more of me, or facade, like a Disney movie. Let me just give them a quick little glimpse of what they asking for, what I think they're asking for, and then that's going to shut them up from this conversation for a little bit. Because if you give them a fake proposal or a diamond bracelet, they're gonna run and tell their friends, and then they distracted on whatever resolving the situation is, because now they have this trinket to distract them.
Mm-hmm.
So they won for another 3 to 6 weeks, 3 to 6 months, 3 to 6 years. Jen, are you talking to us? She had that look like she was going
My
in.
mic was on
She was
mute.
on mute.
My mic is on mute.
Yes.
No, I'm just I think it's basically comes down to what does it take for someone to really like what do you need? Like, what do you need? Do you need to talk to me? Do you need to talk to a therapist? Do you like you need to what do you need to do?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to have happen for you to get right, basically, for you to get whatever the issue is fixed? Like, what is needed? I don't have all the answers. I mean, it's like, what is needed? If I can't help you, who's going to help you?
Right.
And I'm trying to help you. I'm on your team, but if I can't help you, like, what's your option?
Right. And I think that also becomes, are you giving me permission to do other things, like you say, counseling or correcting the situation? But is the fact that you can't help me communicate in permission to do something else that's not beneficial to this relationship?
Oh no, I don't mean that. I don't mean like someone else help you is meaning like
I'm
an extra outside person. I'm saying a professional, like a professional person.
There are
You need
professional
to
helpers
be a
out there.
They're
professional.
professional helpers.
There's
Yes.
professional helpers out there.
They not professional helpers.
Oh, they are.
They just time killers. They killing
Professional
time for you
helper,
right now.
Daryl.
Killing time, making it worse.
Hey, professional. Listen,
Okay.
And it's
they'll
costing
give
you
you
either
all the
way,
help you
no
need
matter
and more.
Right.
whether it's financially or whatever, it's costing you.
Right.
Which
Well,
costs
there's a cost at whatever choice you decide.
right. So if I have to drop you off in my trunk and drive you over to the therapist and literally have you tied up in my trunk, drop you on the therapist's doorstep, you gotta see somebody.
So if you're
It's
dropping
probably
somebody
not
off
gonna
at the
work.
therapist, are you saying that they're the problem, that they need to be fixed, and it's not a relationship thing?
If we're talking about this is a if we're talking about an actual scenario. If
Okay.
I knew that I had issues, we're both coming in with issues. I got my issues resolved. I did the process. I went to therapists. I whatever groups or life coaches or whatever the process
Mm-hmm.
that the woman or the man go through. They took them steps, and the other person has their baggage, the woman or the man.
Right.
I did the work. I did the process. Now you have to work out like separately before you can come together talking about doing some work. Because whatever issues, if you got mommy issues, daddy issues, past relationship issues, what does that have to do with me? Doesn't. That's your bag. So I already unpacked my bag, whatever issues I had. Now you have to do your work, and then we can come together after our independent work is done.
What if
That's what I
there's
would say.
conflict? Because I mean, we all come with baggage.
Right.
You want him to unfold or empty his baggage. He wants you to empty your
I
baggage.
can't hear.
You can't hear
April.
her? I can hear
They're
her.
fine.
You
Okay.
can?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, we hear you fine, April.
Okay. No, I was just
Okay, I
saying.
hear it now.
Oh, okay. What if there's a baggage conflict? meaning you both have different types of baggage, but you're trying to get him to empty his. He's trying to get you to empty yours. You're both pointing fingers. So how do you meet in the middle? Or
Well,
Daryl,
this is
how you meet in the middle with a man
Yes.
and getting him to like really confront his baggage that's going to benefit the relationship.
So I mean, it's all contingent upon who's ready to listen or learn. You know, if people aren't ready, they're not ready. So I don't think there's any like magic formula. It's just when that person is. I do like you kind of said. I think that there's usually something that will promote change. There'll be some type of something that usually has to happen for change to come. Like, you know, usually something has to make someone come to a position where they are like, you know, you need to change. But it's really contingent upon that person, because if they're not ready to hear something, they're not going to hear it.
Right.
right.
So very true.
Stuck.
And I
You
think
said that
was the
sucks?
thing.
The relationship becomes stuck.
Right.
Yes.
Because, and then like if they won't even decide to go to say therapy together or therapy independently, then whatever that trauma trap or thing that makes them frozen remains to have the most influence on their ability to be present in any relationship, even the relationship with themselves, because they may be like sitting there thinking and overthinking the scenario so much that they won't even approach somebody else about a relationship if this one was to end. Oh, we got little people. Hi, little people.
Who's cuter than you, Daryl?
She is. I agree. 100%.
He said, I agree 100%.
100%. You're cute.
So, April, what you got?
I don't know. Again, if no one's willing to release or empty their baggage, you kind of just sit there. How to the question originally was how do you empty your baggage? Or how do
you got to acknowledge it first.
Yeah. Daryl, I'm sorry. What are you
I
going to
think
say?
at a certain point, I was going to say, like, if your relationship and I mean, only person you really can control is yourself, and if the other person really isn't trying to move forward, you got to kind of do the best for yourself. You got to figure out, you know, come to that point. Either, you know, you can accept something or you can't accept something, and make a decision upon what you feel at that point. You know, because you keep pushing somebody, but if they're not going to go, they're not going to go, and you just have to kind of keep your mental health together. You got to do the best for yourself.
And sometimes you got to watch what agenda that you're actually pushing, because you can have patience. Like, you may want it to be resolved today, October the 30th, but they might need some time to kind of process, look at all of the things that they need to do to make this change happen, or all the things that influences in their life, before they can truly be authentic to say, yes, I'm going to go to counseling, or yes, I will try to change my work schedule, you know. So it's like, you have to be mindful of that too. Like, sometimes we're so into our need of what it is that we want to see happen, and we want it to happen like in this conversation, and sometimes it's not going to happen in a conversation the way you want it to. What may happen is that there's now awareness, and you were able to share your thoughts. They were able to give their feedback to what they felt they had capacity to do, but give yourself some grace in regards to being able to say, I'm going to come back to this conversation, or let me, you know, think about ways that I can listen to what you said and come back to it, you know, as opposed to, we in this conversation today and it has to be resolved today. Because then that way you're giving an ultimatum that's creating a different type of control in your relationship that's going to have power imbalance. And that can happen between a parent and a child. That can happen between a supervisor and an employee, as well as in our intimate, relationships. Like, sometimes we have to kind of hear what people are saying, acknowledge it, and be able to say, you know what, okay, let me take a day or take whatever, time it is that you need to kind of come back to you with what an operative plan is going to work for me, as opposed to you dictating to me, this is what the option is, and me having to give it to you by a certain time frame. Because I might not work like that.
Yeah, I think what Daryl said is right. Basically, well,
you agree with Daryl?
Basically, yeah.
I know.
We gotta write this moment down.
I'm writing it down.
It's rare. It's probably not gonna happen again ever. But yeah, I feel like you can only control you. You can control you and how you respond to what others is doing, and that's what I'm saying. If you know that you're the issue, you can't wait on nobody else to do whatever you need to do. Go ahead, get yourself right. Make sure your mental is right. Make sure you're right for yourself, because even if they decide that they don't want to fix whatever's going on with them, you still need to be able to move on. You still need to be a whole person. You still need to be like, you need to be a better person than what you came in as.
Right.
So it's all about, I guess, at this point, you can't push no one to unpack it. Only thing I can do, my job, is to let you know that it doesn't work for me, or this is making me uncomfortable. This doesn't work for the relationship. And ultimately, you have the option whether or not you want to work on you, but I know for sure I'm going to work on me. And that's it. Hopefully I can be an example for you to see like my progress and see how I'm glowing and showing, and hopefully you will want to do the same. And that's it.
And I think that accepting their no doesn't mean like no forever. It just means no, not right now. And I think that sometimes when we hear the word no, we think it's so absolute. And it can be absolute depending on the situation. Like if somebody's trying to take something from you that you don't give consent for, that's a different type of response. That no is a full and complete sentence. However, if they say no or not right now, it's not saying that it's permanent. It's just saying, okay, give me a moment. Like, you're giving me a lot of information and I need to kind of decompress and think through what it is that is being said and or asked of me, and if I have the capacity to do it independently.
And if you don't have the capacity to do it independently, I feel like you need to be held accountable. And you, at some point in time, especially if you're, I would say, you're older, you don't have time to waste. You don't have much of anybody else's time to waste either. It's just not fair.
Right.
You need to make sure that you are together. You get yourself together for yourself and for whoever else you're trying to bring into your life. Like, it's not fair for a person to have to deal with you all over the place. Like, you got so many issues. You could barely deal with yourself. How do you expect me to deal with you?
Right.
You have to be accountable for yourself. And I feel like at a certain point, there's wisdom with age. So when is that going to kick in? When is it going to be that time for you to be like, okay, I got to check it.
We can't always assume that just because a person is of certain age that they have that wisdom.
Right.
Sometimes,
not all the time.
No, right. But what I'm saying is sometimes there's events that take place that doesn't really get the baggage really doesn't get unfolded until they reach a certain age, or they don't become aware that they're responding or they're behaving a certain way because of this baggage that just became unveiled. And I'll give a prime example. Someone that was abused sexually. Sometimes, they don't manifest they've probably manifested some behaviors along the way, but it really it came to light when they became older.
Right.
You know, so in that case, and you're with that partner, how do you deal with that? Or how do you, and you're saying don't give them time because they should have had, you know, they're at a certain age where, you know, the wisdom should have kicked in, but not necessarily. So it's unfair to just leave them hanging if you've been there all that time, you know, so it really depends.
And you bring up a very valid point.
Right.
Because wait, what'd you say, Jen?
She said she didn't say that.
No, I said I wouldn't say that. Like, I'm not gonna give them time. I'm saying I'm giving you the option. I'm giving you the option to know, okay, I let you know how I feel about whatever the issue is. I'm saying I have the right. This is my time. I have the right to decide whether or not you are going to get yourself right. I have to only work on me at this point. If you're showing like, okay, whatever the issue is, if you have sexual abuse or anything, any past relationship, whatever, I can't force you to make that move, but I can force myself because I'm just holding myself accountable. I know what I'm willing to deal with and what I'm not. So you can take all the time in the world. You can be 40, 50, whatever, to get the help that you need if that's what you decide that you want to do. But just don't expect me to kind of be on like a 10, 20, 30, 40-year journey while you're basically holding back.
What if it was drug abuse? I mean, that's an addiction. That's hard.
Then that's my choice whether or not I want to deal with that. And me
You're
personally, I have that choice. Like, if we're gonna get through this, we have to get through it together. I'm not gonna deal with drug abuse, especially I'm not the one on drugs. That affects my life as well. So I'm going to, if we need to go to counseling together, if we need to do all of that, or if you feel comfortable doing that on your own, I'm just saying I have to be accountable for me as well.
Like, it kind of goes back to last week. When we said you got to kind of know what you can handle. You know, you got to have your limit. You got to set your limit. And if it goes past your limit, you got to, you know, you can't handle that, then you really can't be a part of that, right? Because that'll bring two people down at that point. So I think we definitely have to know what we can accept and what we won't accept. There are certain things that, you know, I think we should have our own barometer about what we feel we can accept or not accept, you know, because we got to stay sane ourselves as well. You know, we got to deal with our own, you know, keep our own mental health. And like you guys were saying, so chronological age and mental age are very, you know, they're not always on par. You know, we have a lot of grown adolescents running around out here, a lot of grown adolescents, you know, people who are, portraying the age of as an adult, but they just don't have the mentality to back that.
Good evening, Del Rico.
What's up, good people?
All right.
What's happening?
I don't know. I just wanted to give you a shout out since you rocking it in with us. What was I going to say? So you have any contribution that you want to add in, Del Rico, before we?
No, I was at the tail end, so I don't want to just throw something out there.
Okay.
Hey, Del Rico.
What up, Cat?
So okay, so I want to go back to the abuse part of it though. And if it's addiction or abuse of some sort, and you looking at it from that perspective, are you going to be the enabler of that person's baggage? If you have a committed relationship, like, do you feel some way responsible to kind of stay in there with them, or do you feel like you just got to create an exit plan?
I'll probably be the enabler.
Well, I think, again, I think it should go back to the same thing where you can only do so much, honestly, and you got to figure out what you can do, how much you can how much you can help, how much you can handle, because again, you don't want to get yourself into a situation that you can't really deal with or you can't handle. That's going to now affect you as well, right? It's bring everybody. So you have to know what you can handle, what you can do. And be honest with yourself, because if you're in there saying you can save this person, you can't. You're going to drain both you guys, and you both will end up, you know, needing help at that point.
Right.
If you don't, someone can drain everything out of you. You trying to help somebody else can really take
Definitely.
you all the way down as well. And you can't do that, at a certain time. You gotta let a person go to maybe find their own way, so you don't lose yours.
Right.
A
Right.
lot of times as
I
well.
would definitely agree with that.
Go ahead, Rico.
Well, a lot of times an enabler was once in that person's same space. So a lot of times if there's abuse, it may be learned abuse. It may have happened to them in the past or whatever, they're dealing with. That person may have walked those shoes in the past and feel some kind of sympathy for them. So that's why people, may stay around, because they may have went through it and then they know how hard it is, and they, have a special place for somebody who may be going through the same thing. So that's what you see a lot of times is when somebody allows it, it's because it's happened to them. They seen growing up, they seen their mother and father fighting like cats and dogs.
Right.
And then they thinking that that's what relationships are supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? So.
And that's usually where we get the script of how we deal with conflict and how we deal with just difficult situations. If we have watched our parents, our aunts, whoever kind of just, retreat and disappear, not really dealing with stuff, whether they told us to do something different or not, we learn from what we saw. And we begin to become that word comfortable in what it is that we saw versus all these alternatives that's out there, and they be like, oh, that's not for our culture, or that's not what it is that this family does. We keep our stuff to ourselves. But it's like, if you a secret keeper, that's stress. And that's a baggage that ends up becoming a wedge in between you growing with anybody as your partner. Right? Y'all all looking at me.
A secret keeper is baggage too.
It is.
Like you can have a lot of, it could be the whole generational thing. Like Del Rico said, if you used to seeing like your parents in a toxic relationship, literally that's all you know. You have not seen a real healthy relationship or live with, a healthy relationship. So that's baggage that needs to be dealt with before you go into a relationship, because all you know is toxicity. You don't know how to be, somewhat in a healthy relationship.
Especially if you're always comparing your current relationship to a past relationship, that 1 foot in the previous and 1 foot in the past. Like, you got to decide where it is that you really feel like is the best fit for you.
And I don't even think it's so much with another relationship from your past. They turn on social media and see somebody else getting treated a certain way, and now they thinking, that this is how our relationship's supposed to be.
Right.
And like we got to live up to a standard that, we not capable of living up to. You know what I'm saying? You watching celebrities who might have access to real money. You know what I'm saying? Real cash to do things, and you like, but you don't do that for me. I don't make nowhere near the cash he make.
Right.
But yeah, when we live in, outside of our own relationships and basing our relationships on other people's, then I think those relationships are just bound to fail.
I think that's where some of the unchecked baggage gets life, because if we comparing it to, like, say, celebrities, and we don't even live the celebrity life, but we trying to act like we do, then we creating this own fantasy on what it is that life looks like, and not realizing that we creating even new baggage that didn't exist for us even before.
Yeah, the baggage called trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yes.
Trying to keep up with the Joneses.
And sometimes,
and you don't know what they like behind closed doors. You don't know what their relationship is like.
On the problem, I think the problem is people don't know what a relationship is to begin with. You know, people keep getting into relationships but not knowing what a relationship is. So you're just doing something over and over again. You know, duplicating whatever you did before, kind of, which wasn't anything positive or good. You're just getting along to get along. You know, we're creatures of habit, so they just do the same things over and over, but never knowing what a relationship is. I think people need to stop and really figure out what a relationship is, how you relate to another person, how do you build another person. A lot of times we getting things and we figure we feel like we're growing together, but usually we're not. You know, we're just two dysfunctional people just living in dysfunction, creating more dysfunction.
Because people be wedded to whatever their red flags are. Like they be wet, like those, that's their truth. And they want to just be like, this is how we live. This is what it is. I don't know. Any thoughts? Kim, why you don't just say it out loud?
I think you having some sound trouble.
So, she might be. So
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not having sound trouble. I think it's the competing Wi-Fi's in the house. There's like 5 of them. So yeah. What I was just saying that in my family, so for example, like when I said people fight for the red flags, you see the red flags, but you be like, oh, he loved me. Oh, he cares for me. But I've had family members or relatives that happen, and then you give that person another chance, and the beast is there. You go back, and unfortunately, we've had members get killed by their husbands right in front of families' homes, right in front of our family's home, like right in the driveway. It's just certain things. So when I see a lot of the social media pictures, even down here, unfortunately, people have been like, it's very unfortunate and sad. Women have gotten killed because they go back to they've created this picture and they have to maintain it. The social media stand of what this relationship supposed to be and looks like, and then they know they shouldn't go back. And I've had classmates pass because of this. It's prevalent, and people are like, "Oh, they were so cute together on Facebook. They traveled. They had kids. They were married. They showered each other." But abuse is going on like behind closed doors. So you just never know. Like it's like keeping up with the Joneses, like Jen said. But how far would you go to keep up with the Joneses?
Or is the influence of trying to compare yourself to an unrealistic model for what relationships looks like? Because we gotta go back to what Daryl was saying. A lot of people don't know what a relationship is supposed to look like, and we have a whole bunch of fantasies that's on media, between what media tells us, the sitcoms tell us, Disney tells us, and we be trusting what Disney say for whatever reason. And like all these different images that we value at high regard, but yet it doesn't match our lifestyle.
Sometimes we be trying to do what grandma and grandfather did. It don't work for nowadays, or what the family is saying. Sometimes your mama can see you wrong about what their relationship they had.
That fantasy from a child, that early on, that I want to have the white picket fence and the great story and all that kind of thing. I think people take that and really have that as a picture in their life, and then no matter what's going on in their life, they're trying to, I guess, mask their reality. They had it in their head that I'm looking for the white picket fence, the American dream, and all that, and this, that, and the third. And all they're really concerned with is the perception that, they're giving off. Like, they don't care that when they go in the house, like, you crying, you upset, your world is crumbling, but you fix it up to come outside and make it look good. Like, there is many, many, many people doing that in all facets. Like, it's sad because, y'all, trying to keep up with the Joneses, you be dead. Like,
right.
Literally, like, and it's sad because, like, if you could live in your reality, you'll have a lot more happy days. And And when I mean happy days, I mean when you go away from everybody else, you by yourself at home, and the door is locked. You can really look at yourself and be happy. But you put on the front all day, you come home, and now you just, you're miserable. You've lied all day. You lied about the relationship. You lied about the money you make. You lied about everything. So it's
even the suit you have on, or the dress you have on, and the car you drive, like all of that could be a part of this big lie. Because you may not be able to make the car note, but you like, okay, I gotta make this car note because people need to see me driving XYZ car. Why?
No need. You're impressing other people for nothing.
Right.
Because the people you're trying to impress, 9 times out of 10, they got stuff going on.
They doing the same thing.
Image,
they
doing
everybody doing the same
they're doing
thing.
it for a reason. Like, they need that.
Everybody going home crying, but out there living life that's not real. But in their house, they crying, struggling.
Right.
Because you can't lie to yourself. So you get home, you realize that. I'm not living the way, and you're really carrying an extra burden around trying to keep up that facade. Yeah. That's tough to do.
And
it has
that's
to be
that
tough.
burden.
And that's that burden of baggage. Yeah. Because you don't want to be shameful. And then sometimes your family, feeds into this because they be like, oh, well, you X age, or you've gotten X. If we go back to the conversation about having degrees or whatever accomplishments that was important to family, and then they say, okay, well, since you have this, you're supposed to have like all these other labels. And it's like, no, can I just live in my own humanistic way? Like, yes, I made these accomplishments to provide better for myself and if I have a family, but like that didn't mean that I had to go and get all these flashy things to be stressed and unhappy.
Or the other baggage of when they expect you to have all of this, they expect you to take care of them too.
Oh.
The baggage of having
more
to take
about that.
Family.
Yep.
You're trying to take care of yourself.
Yep.
Right. They begin reading into what you can afford. You can send me $500 a month. Who said that?
Right.
Like, well, I see you on. I saw you on Instagram. I saw you. Okay, but the people who are really doing that, who are always out and they got to show this, show that. They're, oh, me and Babe were on vacation. This, and that. They will literally stay busy. And I know people like that. They will stay busy. They will stay gone. They will stay partying. They'll have a lot of people around them because of that fear of going home, having to deal with themselves. They don't want to go home and sit with themselves. So they will literally try to stay out and keep as busy as possible, or keep a lot of people around them because they can't handle what's going on with themselves. Like, they don't like themselves. So they figure, look, I could stay busy. I could stay out. I could stay partying. I could stay on vacation. Next week I'm here. Next week I'm there. But they don't like themselves.
And that's like, expensive when they baggage.
Go home, they're crying, or they're the ones a couple months later they're writing basically help me letters online, looking for somebody to be looking for somebody to be sympathizing, but nobody knew you was going through all this because you've been living it up, partying for months and vacations and all this other stuff when you barely went home to deal with whatever you had going on inside. Like, you're avoiding it, and that's bad. It's just
people with money. Yeah, and a lot of people with money can do that. I know in my past, I come from a sports background, and I was lucky enough to touch a pretty high level of it. And what I learned is people have all this money, all these big houses, and a lot of people I knew didn't even have mirrors in their house because they didn't want to even see their own self.
They didn't want to receive the reflection.
Yeah, like you worked all this hard and you can't even look at your own self. You know,
can't even enjoy it.
Yeah, it's sad. It's like that's the worst kind of thing. You can't even look at yourself and say, "I'm proud of myself," and for this accomplishment, like you looking at yourself, like to even get here, I've lied to my own self. I've sold myself out and everything else. Like it's awful.
So if you don't love you, then how you expect somebody else to love you right? If you don't even know how to love your own self.
And that's baggage in and of itself.
Yeah. Like, how am I supposed to do this job that you don't even know? Like, you don't know what it entails because you don't have it all together.
But a lot of people give other people the responsibility of loving them.
Yes,
But
a lot of people give people the responsibility of helping them find their identity. No, I can't help you find your identity. Like you have to. That should be here. Like this is just the plus one. Like I can't help you find your identity. That's what you do when you sit by yourself and you like that's your work. Like you shouldn't expect no one to come in and do all that. That's baggage.
And people are afraid to sit with themselves. Like they think if you say you're going to the movies or dinner or something like that, or choosing to not date or be with somebody for whatever committed amount of time, that is something wrong with that choice because you're supposed to be with somebody allegedly in their theory or their mind, as opposed to making that responsible choice of, okay, I got baggage, I need to deal with this baggage, and being with someone else or being in a connected relationship with someone else, not dealing with it is only going to continue to sabotage. It's going to be a short-lived relationship.
That is true. I feel as though. Yeah, I just think I'm a real big advocate of going to dinner by myself, just taking a walk by myself. Sometimes when
Me
you get
too.
quiet, you hear things like you internalize and hear things that you need to hear that you may not hear from somebody else, but you can hear in a quiet space. It's not convoluted always.
Right.
And sometimes with having somebody with you, like just going somewhere with you, brings noise.
Right.
And they'll tell you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear.
Absolutely.
So I think that's big.
Yeah, that made me laugh, Ken, because I like quiet.
I do too. I love quiet, even with kids. I'd be like, shh.
I'm loud. I'm loud enough, and these couple little podcasts I come on, that's my let it all out. But I don't like a lot of noise. Like football with all the ringing and screaming in the past and everything I used to go on. Like I cringe now if there's loud. I'm like, oh my god.
Like I think I like quiet so much. I know everybody's footsteps.
Right.
Like, I know who somebody. I know what everybody's footprint, their walk. That's a part of like being in touch with yourself. I can be like, who? I already know who it is. So it's kind of like okay. But quiet, and also I think quiet makes people sit down.
Rest.
When you're quiet,
Or makes them take a moment to kind of reflect on what is actually like what their true thoughts are, if they're being honest, because if they don't want it, then they need some noise like the radio or the TV, even if they're not even paying attention to it, they need that noise in the background because sitting with themselves is too challenging.
Yes. And there are people like that. They feel that if it's too quiet, that's a problem.
Right.
Like you need
They like chaos.
You always need some type of something to throw you off your
Some
mindset.
stimulus.
You need to be able to have a clear mind at the end of the day. You need just quiet. You need to be able to, if you need to meditate, you need to be able to do that. You don't need to have a whole lot of background noise. That's once again, you always need something to interfere with you self-checking. Every day you need to step back and self-check. And a lot of people, they don't do that. And that's why they have
You know what I say, Jen?
they feed off the internet because of that. The internet is a whole lot of noise and interference for people to be like only seeing what you put out there. So they think you're the best friend or you're the best lover or you're the best husband or girlfriend or you're the best employee, you make the most money.
If they only
no. Yeah, if they only that's just 1/16. I ain't even gonna say a quarter. That's just 1/16
your life, right.
Of what's really going on. Because when you shut off your phone, that's if you shut off your phone, because they don't shut off their phone. They still need that interaction. They still need the notifications. They still need the gratifications to keep them from really sitting with themselves and saying like, damn, I got a lot of work to do. Like I would never. Those are the people that don't go on, they don't take themselves on dates. They don't walk alone.
Right.
They don't, because they feel like they're embarrassed. So if they're walking alone, they're bringing their phone and doing Instagram stories to show they're walking alone. Hey, y'all, just getting a workout on just anything. And it's like, are you really, like, you need that constant gratification. Why? If you're walking alone, your phone shouldn't even be on doing an Instagram story. Everybody
you need to be checking your surroundings to make sure you're safe.
Exactly. Right.
So you're gonna get took from the back. I shouldn't say it that way, but you know what I meant.
Right.
Rico, you was going to say something?
And I was just agreeing with Jen. That's all.
Okay.
Like it like people just like to me, when she was explaining it, it always brings me back to people just wanting to have somebody else to blame, like outside of themselves. I know we're talking about, I know we're talking about people not, you know, into themselves, not knowing themselves, lying to them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always just like, if I'm doing something else, if somebody's around, if this distraction is there, I could always blame something about somebody or something else other than my own self. I don't have to have accountability for nothing. Like, I didn't hear you because I had the TV on. I didn't, you know, even something small as that. You know what I'm saying? Something small as that. Like, if somebody will do that and say that to you, you know they'll say anything. I didn't hear you because, you know what I'm saying, this, that, and the third. Or it's always blaming somebody and having that outlet to play victim. Like,
but there's also, don't forget, I feel like there's baggage when people, like, you're trying to change and trying to do better, but people don't want to see you for who you actually are. They want to see you who you was 20 years ago, or they want to see you who they think you are, but they really don't know you, but they claim they know you, but they just can't let you. They can't let you go. I think that's baggage too, because if they focus on you, they don't have to focus on themselves. They got somebody else to talk about. They got something else to complain about or be miserable about. So it's like, girl, you ain't right. You did this. You did. That keeps them going, keeps them riled up. The baggage of just minding your own business. Let's work on you.
Right. But that's difficult. It's really, really difficult for people because they want things to happen on their own terms, even if their own terms is raggedy.
Oh, dusty as hell.
Even if their own terms is raggedy.
Their own terms is raggedy.
That's real talk. Yeah, that's real. Yes.
Or what about the people that have the baggage that they're literally living in the past? Like, even if the past, like they were doing their thing, they were on top of the world like 20 years ago, and they are stuck at that stage. Like, they are stuck at that 20 years ago stage where they made the best money, had the best body, they was doing their thing. They had odds, like buku money, buku cars, they traveled, they did this, and like the has been, so to speak. Like, that is a baggage too. You cannot, like, you're stuck there, and you want me to be stuck there when I even know you then. But you want everyone to be stuck there on how great you were. But that's just saying, like, you're stuck there. You don't think that you're good now, that you have to keep living in the past. If you have to be that stuck on telling everybody what you was and what you had and all of that. So that's another one.
That is a big one.
And
yeah,
that happens than not.
That's a real big
one.
Lot
with, you listen, that happens a lot with athletes. I'm listening to you tell that story, and athletes get stuck in that goddamn cycle of, I was good 20 years ago and I was the man and couldn't nobody stop me. And I know you ladies is at home like, if you don't stop telling this old dumbass story about when you was in shape and when you was somebody, like, because I get it with my friends who is, you know, they talk about everything to their limit where they stopped. So it's like, I went above and beyond that. Like, I don't want to talk about that shit no more. Like, let's talk about 2020. Like, you still want to talk about 1988? Like, are you serious? 80. And 50 Cent had a real song, and it was a great song. He said, homie, what the F happened to you? And a lot of our people are stuck in that, telling stories from when they was supposedly on top. Yeah.
When they was on top before the 10 kids, the 10 cases, and this, and that.
Yeah, so
what are you doing right now? Like, what are
they still defining themselves from the history, and they never define themselves beyond that point. And like, that's baggage. Like, you never saw yourself go through cycles of growing up. Right.
That's why they're stuck, because they value this thing, whether it be money or the party life or whatever. They value that, and they really didn't have any substance. So now there's nothing else for them to go off of, because all of that is gone, and now you're literally just left with you.
Right. So, or now they the soccer mom.
Yeah, like, it's me good.
And they had a BMW before the kids.
I ain't had no BMW.
But I'm just saying, you had a soccer mom card now, and you're like, okay, but when I was young and you know, popping and snapping, you had this sports car, Acura, or whatever.
There's nothing wrong with being a soccer mom.
I didn't say it was, because I know you just got home from being a sports mom.
So that's all that matters.
Ain't nothing wrong with being a soccer mom, basketball mom, baseball mom, track mom, football mom.
But when I step out in the street, you ain't gonna know the half.
Huh?
Salute to all football moms. Salute. Salute to all football moms, man.
Football mom. You wasn't hitting on my
All sports moms are the best, man. I know.
That's right.
Boy, I tell you.
We did every day. All day.
Sitting there putting our wine in our cooler while they doing karate and everything else.
Right, because you gotta stay warm in the middle of all of that.
Oh, brother.
That's like, what's up, now. That's dope. Yeah. Yeah.
So what would we tell people? How can someone acknowledge their baggage, be it that it's a social standard, you know, I'm always saying social constructs, a social standard or whatever it is that keeps them stuck, and making improvements so that they could really show up in today's relationship instead of holding on to old toxic energy?
That's the question, because you
can't.
That is
because it's very
That's
difficult.
The question. I think that was a good question for you. Like, how do you?
Yeah, I mean,
I know, right?
That comes with help. You know what I mean? If most people, if you don't know is a problem or know you have a problem, you can't even begin to realize you have a problem and then, you know, take steps to fix it. That's where most of us are stuck at. We're stuck in the problem and living it and really not knowing that we have a real problem. You know, we make it, we're in denial. We may make it other people or other things,
right,
this, that, or the next. But I think it's really, we're not really taught to really self-evaluate and to really be honest with ourselves, you know? And so with us not being honest with ourselves, a lot of times we don't get to the root of our problems.
Right.
You know? We just don't. And that's the problem from, you know, a lot of people.
And we got to accept the invitation that, you know, doing something different than what our parents have done or what we've seen before is okay. And a lot of times the shame that we have or the guilt that we have is because we're still holding ourselves to either a visible or invisible like responsibility that we have to making it better for ourselves or making it the way that our parents told us that it was supposed to be. And a part of that we owned and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do when. But life changes, you know, and
it's really difficult when, again, we're at this point, a lot of people, you're conditioned to be a certain way, right? If you've seen your parents for, you know, 18 years do something, then at the end of the day, in crisis mode, you're going to go back to what you know. And that conditioning is real. So a lot of us are just conditioned to repeat the sins of our fathers. You know, we're just conditioned to do that. And, you know, how do we break that conditioning? You know, break conditioning takes a lot of work, you know, to extinct, for something to become extinct. It's a lot of work, you know, and that's a big problem we have when, you know, half your life you've been conditioned to do something. Now you have to try to do something else in the fourth quarter. How do we, you know, how do we do that? How do we begin doing that?
Right. And it takes that acknowledgement that what you're doing is not working, and not feeling guilty that you need to do it a different way because life is delivered to you in a different way. So your parents or your aunts or whoever raised you may not have thought that therapy was an option, or your career change that you really feel passionate about is what you want to do, but it's not what they wanted you to do. So it's like you have to like just say, okay, it's not shameful to have these independent ideas, but in order to do that, this is going to be the risk, or this is what I'm choosing is going to balance me and make me happy, as opposed to living your life for someone else instead of for yourself.
I mean, that sounds good. But
it does.
It's really tough. Does. Like I said, it's really tough. Like your conditioning, and then most of the things around you. Because I don't know how, you know, for me, where I grew up, you know, therapy wasn't popular. That wasn't something that people did. That's not something that they're saying to go do to get self-help. You know, you know, you can do it. You get through it. You find a way through it. You find a way to make it happen. You know, it's never find a way to get yourself better. You know, it's never real. It's more about you know, you suck it up. You know, things of that nature. You know, you don't tell people outside of your home what's going on. You keep it to yourself. So we're taught to keep all these things in, right?
Super keeper.
Yeah, so we become this bomb of things, and that's why we explode and have the outbursts. Usually on the person we care about the most, our loved ones. And then, like I said, there's not many things out there that are showing us anything different. There's not many things out there that are showing us, hey, this may be the way. Hey, maybe you need to change what you're doing. There's not many places out there like that, So I mean, you can hear this in this group a lot, but I know, even with a lot of my friends, at times they're talking, this is not a conversation they're having, this is not where they're going with it.
And I truly understand and get that, but it's like, and offering just the space of the conversation of what's available 2020 moving forward, like you really have to make that decision and choice of, and not looking at it as a bad thing, not necessarily that it has to be therapy, because it doesn't always have to be therapy, but that is a resource that's available to people. But like, what are you going to do that's going to make you stand alone or not alone, stand out in your happiness? Like, what commitment do you have? Like, you make a commitment if you go to a training program or to get a certain certification or degree, like that's a commitment. How can you commit to yourself at that same level? And what is it going to take to make those changes that you need to make?
I would say it takes a lot. I feel like I made the commitment to myself at 17. My family wanted me to stay back longer, but I was trying to leave at 13, 14, 15. So I decided to stay back to help care for my younger siblings, because the age group we're so far out of space. So I stayed back, but I left. But I was kind of shunned for about 10 years because people felt like I left them behind. People felt abandoned. But the whole time I'm being raised, and people can be physically there, but when they don't work on their stuff, the transference of the trauma, the toxicity that transfers to you. So I took a stand, and I'm still taking that stand, and some people understand it, and I'm okay with that. Others don't, and I don't apologize for it. But when I was 17, I was just like, this is it. I've given my years, and I'm not coming back, because even though I struggled, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, you gotta just be grounded, and regardless of what happens, you have to know you made the right decision for you. You can't be like, if people can sway you either other way. I knew I had work to do, not because I left at 17, but at that point I knew I couldn't blame it on my mother and father, even though they passed it down. I just had to do the work from what I was given, what I was dealt with. So when you do the work, regardless of what other people are saying, it took forever, but it was the best thing I ever did for me. So I don't feel like this being selfish. I felt like it was just had to be done. But also it's hard to do because people in your ear, they feel some type of way, but nobody's asking you how you feel. Nobody's asking you how you think about your own life. Nobody's saying, if you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. Nobody's just being like, oh, how you doing? So at that point, I don't feel bad. I don't feel no type of way about it. I feel great. The best decision I ever made, and I don't regret it. And people are like, and so those same people that abandoned me, they're finally coming around now, almost 20 years later. But I'm not bitter, no malice. I just living my life, and I've done the work, and I still have more work to do. But you really gotta be like, this is who I am, and this is what I need to do. And if you don't understand, I'm sorry. Some people just not gonna be there for it or support it, and that just has to be okay. Like, it's tough, but you got to be like, this doesn't feel right. Even though it doesn't feel the best, but it's the best decision for me. So
right.
I don't know.
But that's not an easy journey to even jump into, And like, we all have said it wasn't the conversation that we had growing up. It's like, this is the new way of life of healing and self, determination or empowerment and stuff like that. But it's like, it's here now. So it's like, if it's here, and we see it, like, why not take that responsibility to say, or that option to say, let me try something different and be committed to myself?
Yeah, you definitely have to be committed to yourself. Because like I said, with a lot of situations, you can lead by example. And in the end, whether it's sink or swim, as far as allowing someone else to drag me down with their baggage, I'm gonna choose me. I'm gonna choose me no matter what.
Mhm.
Because if I go down, everybody going down. Kids going down, everybody going down. So and that's not an option for me.
Right.
Like I
Right.
feel like it's just not an option. So I take accountability for myself. Like I'm taking accountability, and when I know like I'm off or I need help, not help like that, but like help, like I need some time away or anything, I'm taking that because I gotta look out for me,
Right.
and I'm holding myself accountable before I hold anybody else accountable. For me, I'm holding myself accountable because no one knows how I'm feeling, really, really feeling on the inside, unless I decide to voice it, and that's just what it is. And
So what does that
a lot of families
accountability
they
look
come from
like? Like,
secret families too.
what would that accountability look like? Like, if you were to tell somebody a skill or something that you activate, what would that look like for you?
Well, me, that accountability is I knew like I felt it. Like I felt like I was getting overwhelmed in my relationship, my household, my everything. And I made a decision to literally, it didn't take me long. I always thought about therapy. I always wanted, even when I was younger, I always thought about therapy. I just didn't know like a lot of people. It wasn't really talked about, but I knew that this thing existed. I felt like the whole family should go to therapy. But when you're a
Amen.
child and you're younger, you kind of get some like, oh girl, whatever. Like she said, just get over it. You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Right. You being
But
extra.
that's why
Yeah.
at
You're not
30,
crazy.
yeah, like in my 30s, almost 40, I'm just now getting to know the women in my family and all the stuff that we should have been going to therapy for. All these
Mm-hmm.
relationships that you thought was so perfect that come to find out were not. Like all you
Mm-hmm.
see is, oh, so and so is getting a new house or they're moving or they moving on up. But then now I'm sitting down in my 30s having wine and having drinks at family functions and really hearing what really was going on for
Mm-hmm.
30 something years, how they really felt. And that was I said, I'm not going to grow up in a cycle like that. I'm not going to put my kids through that. I'm very outspoken. I say what I say. It's fine. I'm going to do the work for myself. And I knew, all right, I need to see a therapist because y'all are all doing the same thing. Everybody's keeping secrets. Everybody is just being complacent. I don't want that. Like I'm gonna break the cycle. And I think, yeah, besides, I'm the only one that actually went to a therapist. And then after I went, that was me leading my example. Then family
Mm-hmm.
members calling me up like, oh, how is your sessions going? Do you feel like it's working? Do you feel like asking me questions so I already know that they're paying attention and
Right.
they're knowing that there's something that they need to possibly, at least see what it's about. And since me going, I turned on about 4 people, 2 of my friends and 2 family members to therapy, getting help with past traumas from generational stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister is older, way older than me, and she's in her 50s. And for her to even take that step
Mm-hmm.
to, and she's very closed off. She's very stuck in her ways. And for her to ask me about it, I'm like, look, we both come from the same like parent. You need it. Like I know
Right.
you feel like you don't want to listen to the younger sister, but I'm doing good. Like so go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and I'll give you the number, even if I have to do the research and bring back a couple of people, because that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
I just led by example. Like I cannot force no one else to go, but I'm going for
Nope.
me because I'm not going to sink based off of what I couldn't control how I was raised or any of that. But I'm not
Right.
going to allow myself to sink or my children to sink because of some unresolved issues and things that I have going on, or my relationship to sink. Like I'm not gonna do that. Like it's not fair to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm gonna sink myself, that's one thing, but I'm not gonna take anybody else along and drag them through it. So I made a decision to lead by example and get the help that I needed. And it was worth it.
Nice.
All right. Same question for everybody. Like, what would you share with someone to recognize when they can do something different? Like, what would be the action behavior? Because it's not something that, like we've said, it's not something that our family said, oh, yeah, well, when the X happens, this is what you do. Like, life has evolved, and it's a lot of stuff that's poured into us that we don't like or understand, or we're like, okay, the rule book didn't have this in it, because there's really no rule book. Like, life evolves differently. So, like, what would you say to those who are, like, listening to this conversation to actually activate to do something different?
I feel like you got to be the one to step up, even though you might not want to be. You have to be the one to kind of step up. Because just being on like things like this, certain family members, we can get together and talk about everything, barbecues, whatever. But we're not going to talk about so-and-so cheating on you or beating on you or stealing from you or whatever. Y'all don't want to talk
about why you keep moving. Y'all keep getting evicted.
Exactly. Or why the kids, like why you can't afford, the basic necessities. Y'all just want to talk about.
But you got weave down to your back.
Right. But your car just got repoed and you're getting kicked out. So it's like, if you have to be that one to kind of start it and bring up the conversation and will be the vulnerable person, if you feel that you're strong enough, then I feel like, go ahead. Like, I'm going to bring up the conversation because no one else in these 30 group of people wants to do it. So I'll do it.
Right.
But that's just how I am.
I mean, with around family, stuff will come up and I interject it, and sometimes I'm told I'm too real, but I'll just be like, from my heart in my situation and my family. I'll tell them something and they'll be like, "Oh, that didn't happen. You were there. We were there together. What you mean it didn't happen?" Like stuff like, and so people are like, "Oh, how are you able to do that? How are you able?" So, for example, a cycle, when you talked about moving, like, for example, growing up, we moved every 3 to 6 months. I've lived in shelters. I've been homeless. I slept on, the significant others or like the mama's boyfriend's floor. Like, we piled together. People refused to pay bills. Things happen. Regardless of how much you make, had great income, but family members just splurged and didn't pay bills. Okay? So you're a product of that. So my whole thing is I had to work on not wanting to. So when I got married, I'm like in Philly, I'm loving it, but I'm like, oh, I'm stuck. I need to move to another city. I don't want to love it here, but I felt like it was like a turmoil because I knew it was right to be stable and be in one place for a while because I had that in college. But it was like after that, outside that bubble, I was like, do I want to move here? Do I want to do this? But staying was the best thing. I didn't have nowhere to run. Because I actually had to communicate with the person and pay bills and build a life in a household. And I was just like, ooh, this is deep. Because what I saw growing up, I saw couples married, even my own parents. But one of my parents left the other spouse over 15, 20 times. Like, so when you leave that, if you have a disagreement, I'm gone for a month. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like, okay. Or it can be something simple. Oh, you don't want to cook and clean or get a job? Well, let me just go stay with my mama for 6 months. And I would contribute to the household, but this is what I saw. So it's just like, I always was able, so.
Oh, wow. Not in the middle of her sentence.
Literally,
April. Oh, here she go.
She should become
Wi-Fi. So when I tell my kids these stories, they're like, "Oh wow, that's crazy." I'm like, right. So I just tell my kids, you have it 20, 30 times better because it's just a different lifestyle. Like people are like, would you rather be a kid or an adult? I would always rather be an adult because I can control like the basics.
Me too.
Like so I'm talking about like I had to share everything. Like I'm so resourceful because this is just how I had to be. So I think now sometimes being resourceful kind of gets in the way sometimes because I'll have it and like just spend it. So trauma for me is not having a certain amount in my bank account. Or not checking. I used to check my account 50 times a day. I do not savings and checking. It's in there, but I'm still checking to make sure. Like, so now I'm down to checking my account once every 3 or 4 days, and that's great. But that's trauma. Baggage. Like, you just. So when I say maybe when I say it, like I'll be having a conversation with my family, and I'll be like, I've had 13 years of therapy, and they just look at me like, what? When did this happen? What? It's always they like you sound so easy about it, so nonchalant. Well, I feel like when you make a decision to stand for yourself, it's hard, but then it becomes easier.
Right.
Once you start to work one day at a time. Like it was crazy because I've never been an alcoholic or anything, but I attended some.
Are you sure?
I attended some AA meeting, and you're talking about real therapy? But I've learned a lot because it's like whether you had that addiction or not, or that baggage, everybody has something. I just learned how to really like express myself, going to some of those meetings, with being support for other friends. I was like, this is intense, but they actually work on themselves during the 12 steps. So I just think just being just kind of coming out with it, and I think people are like, oh, she just said that, she just dropped the bomb. So maybe I should talk to her. So what's so funny in my family now, they keep secrets, but everybody will text me, somebody will call me and be like, we need to talk. Or another family member will tell that family member, my cousin, oh, you need to call LaJoya. Don't talk to me. She's had the therapy. And I'm like, I am not a trained therapist, but I can hear you talk. I can and then I say, I can refer you to somebody, because I think that's the, that's the
safe handoff. Yeah. Like they don't have to go back into their own thoughts and not know who to call or what to do. Right. So who wants to go next? April or Daryl?
Go Daryl.
I don't know. I was just listening. I'm not really sure how to
like what you would suggest.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about it. I just don't have anything.
Okay.
So
I could appreciate that though too. We gotta model what we said. I can't rush you. I gotta wait until the thought comes.
Right.
April.
Excuse me. I think
off the top.
You just gotta be tired of being in a uncomfortable situation.
Right.
Tired of uncomfortable fear, as Champ said, maybe possibly breaking the cycle. I know for me, I would have to say I got tired of doing for others and just needed to take time to start doing things for me. I've for most of my life, I was a caregiver or responsible for someone else, myself, or at least I put them first. I had control over that, but that is just by behavior, what I was conditioned to do as a child, and all the way up until most recently, where I just said I had to put a hold to everything, because I realized that exactly, the nurturer. I was a nurturer. But I realized that I really wasn't taking care of myself. And I always felt guilty about putting myself before others, especially when it came to my kids. I never found that balance, or never had that balance. And that's something that I had to learn in my older years, is creating that balance. I'm not that old, but as I got
your seasoning.
Yes. And it's true, they do make you feel guilty, especially your children.
Especially your children.
Or your partner. It's like,
Mm.
well,
And
it's
society says that you're not supposed to take away from your family to do anything. If we talk about it as self-care, like you're not supposed to have that me time or, things that you do independent of the family, because your role is, and then they have this whole script of what it is. And it's like, no, I need to plan me into my every single day. Like, I need to plan a deep breathing exercise. I need to plan when I'm doing journaling. I need to plan that I having lunch just by myself, silent, or reading a book that's empowering. Like, whatever it is, like you have to create that space unapologetically. And when people start giving you that noise, you really have to turn the noise off. And turn the noise off respectfully. I'm not saying, turn it off and be with, like we said in the beginning, with the neck rolling and stuff like that. and the looks that Camp was talking about that she giving somebody. But if you do that, then it's going to end up communicating something else to someone else, to your partner or your children, whenever baggage is rising to the occasion, that you stepping on my toes and this is how we're going to deal with it, as opposed to, and remember, every single thing you do is teaching somebody something.
Oh yeah, that's why I said I would be the enabler, because I'm the one that's always nurturing, looking to help someone, looking to help them get past through certain things rather than address my own issues first. So, but yeah.
And somebody said to take a vacation. You could take a vacation, but I have I think I can say this safely. Like, I have a couple that I'm working with that is talking about like a family vacation, and that family vacation is for the cousins, but not their significant others. And it's causing conflict in the relationship, because they're like, okay, well, I'm a part of the family, but I can't go on the trip because I'm not the cousin. And it's all in a matter of how it was presented, but it could have been presented a little bit differently.
That sounds crazy.
Huh?
That sounds crazy.
Yeah, it does. But I think that if they presented it a little differently, it would have been received better. Better. Plus, they had other stuff of baggage going on. So it's like, you got to think about the whole picture of everything that's going on. We talking about fighting and separating, and now all of a sudden you going on vacation. No, that's not the time to mention that you going on vacation, because who you going on vacation with? You just telling me it's the cousins. Now I got other baggage that's coming into the conversation.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's making me feel insecure. Like, okay, are you sure you going? Like, who goes on vacation with their cousins? Like, just the cousins?
Right.
That's weird.
Well,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. I go with my cousins. We're all close, so we do we do cousins thing, because we're all close.
Right.
So it could happen, right? Like, but I understand how it's framed. You can't say we're going on a family. We can't say it's a family vacation and then say it's cousins.
Right.
Cousins vacation maybe first, but you can't say family and then you can't go.
Yeah, you can't go. Like, I need to get away from you.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
you might need to get away from them. However, you shouldn't say it that way. You should be sensitive to that. You creating a new bag in a relationship. You creating a new bag in a relationship. Yep. It is sticky. But as you grow, like a relationship, how you come into it, you need to be clear and vulnerable. That doesn't always happen. We usually come into situations with, partially sharing who it is that we are. Like, if you travel every 3 to 6 months, and some of those trips would include your partner or not, you got to be clear on that.
I'm going on these trips. You can't come to all of them.
You can only come every other trip.
Yeah,
and
you
like,
can't come to all the trips. You gotta put that up front. Yeah,
you gotta put that up front.
Yeah.
Gotta put that up front so they know they clear.
More baggage. Because then it's gonna be like,
that baggage.
I
They're gonna be like, what's happening on these trips that I ain't on? I'm calling you, I can't reach you.
Like, I like to travel. I like to go on all these trips, just not with you, with everybody else, but
Right.
with you.
I mean,
so I gotta go on the trips to get over all of the baggage that you put me through. So that's why I'm going on all these trips.
I knew we would turn left at some point.
I know my husband travels, but I travel too. But I had family members telling me, "How long you gonna be apart?" I said, "Oh, months." They go, "You ain't going?" I always go. I can stay home. What? You trust him? What you mean?
Right. They putting that energy onto you. Like they would entrust their partner.
They're putting their baggage onto you. That's their baggage.
Right. They're saying,
putting
"Oh,
on you.
I can't even leave. I can't even have my husband be away for a day." That's crazy. Well, me in my head, I think differently. So I'd be like, okay. And they was like, "Are you okay?" I got this question. Are you gonna be okay? Do I need to come visit you? Oh no, you don't need to come visit me. Since he's traveling. Oh no, I'm good. That's extra bag.
Like I'm mentally prepared for this trip.
Yeah, and they're like, "Well, do I need to pack a bag and give you some company?" I'm good. With me and my kids, yeah, we're good. So it's just like that whole baggage thing because they can't trust their partner.
Yeah,
right. And it's not even always about trust. They just think that once you become a committed couple, that everything is supposed to be done together, and that's not true. Like for 100% authentic relationship, like that's just not true. Like it's nice that y'all have vacations together. If you like Daryl's family, you got the cousins trip, you know, whatever, like you gotta mix it all up because that's the way that you develop trust, you develop value to your relationship. But then also, if you're a person that likes to travel, it don't even have to be a travel situation. You could drive, I mean, we're on the East Coast. You could drive to Baltimore to New York for the day, maybe stay overnight and come back. And that could be it. I mean, you went all the way out and said a whole month, but you know, it is what it is. Everybody does things differently.
Where's she going to Africa?
Yeah, they do.
Listen, she might be.
So before COVID hit, we had a thing we started in January of this year. So every other month would be a family trip. And then the months in between would be a couple trips. So when we started that, we went to January was Boston, February was in the Candace of Virginia, where we do couples. March was something. It was supposed to be like Montreal, some other places, but they closed the border. But we found a way to kind of like road whatever. So we kind of had a long time, but not really. But it's all family. But
we
mixed it up. So it was just different ideas.
Right. Well, I hope that we gave people some ideas of what it is that they could do, you know, to kind of be aware and acknowledge like the different baggage and how it is that they can process these unchecked things in a way that works for them, or give them like some ideas that they can think about what would work for them. Because that's the purpose of these conversations, even though we be sipping and chatting and sometimes not sipping.
Who's not sipping?
You know,
I'm always sipping.
You always sipping, Jen. I'm just saying. Sometimes people gotta take a week off and do something different, but you know, it's all good. I appreciate y'all. Any last words before we wind down?
Uncheck it. No matter how difficult the conversation is, no matter what way you go about it, you have to uncheck it. And don't uncheck it with somebody who got their own issues. Don't uncheck it with somebody who they sitting there with a whole situation that they need to get sorted out themselves. Uncheck it with somebody who is healthy, somebody who did the work themselves.
Right.
Clearly. Don't put it on somebody who they're stuck. So you have to do it. No matter what. It's uncomfortable. It has to be done. Change is never, these awakenings and change is never comfortable. When you stay in your comfort zone, that's when nothing happens.
Absolutely.
So it has to be done. That's called growth.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
I just know when life gets very uncomfortable, and you very content, and you're like, "Oh, I've arrived, I've made it." But when nothing is going right, that's the out of nowhere, that's the I think the perfect time to start getting things in order and start taking care of your baggage, because
Right.
it makes you that would continue to happen until you do something about it.
Absolutely. 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 All right, party people. So thank you for joining us. We catch you next week, Friday, Sip and Chat. We will share what the lovely conversation will be. And thank you for rocking with us another Friday night. I'll catch you guys in the studio. Take care.